Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. This is Queen Carladia, and I'm speaking to my Afro Rakanu and Afro Right Kaitnut family, my African Black family, regardless of where we find ourselves on the planet, regardless of our ethnicity. It is our roots that unite us. It is our roots that unite us, and we are the mothers and fathers of humanity. And so I come to remind us of who we are and our identity, even as there is a massive effort to erase this identity on planet Earth. I just want to talk real briefly about divine encounters and share a story that I have in my book, Soul Mark for Life. Some years ago, I took a trip to Brazil and to Peru by myself, and it was absolutely incredible. I could not speak the language, and literally, I lost my ability to control my environment and my circumstances because everything was taken away from me, including my language. And in its place emerged songs that played within my mind that told me about where I was and what was coming up next. Well, I actually got to Brazil a day later than planned. And I didn't know how far I was going to see John of God. I didn't know how far away he was. I didn't realize he was like 2.5 hours away from Brasilia, the airport. So I finally figured out how to get to the bus that was going to take me on this trip. And as it's getting dark, I start to get scared. I begin to get afraid. I tried to speak to the bus driver. He could not speak English. Every time I said something about Abijania, he just repeated what I said. One thing I knew though is that the people that worked with John of God, they wore all white. And about an hour and a half or so into the trip, a lady dressed in all white came onto the bus, and she had a clear bag and it had nice, neatly folded white clothes in it. And she came and sat next to me. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so relieved. I said, she works with John of God. I tried to talk to her. She couldn't understand a word that I said. But before I left, I had written down John of God in Portuguese, Jorge de Deus. And so I handed her this piece of paper that I had written his name, and she looked at it, and then she just had this beaming smile on her face, and she's like I should follow her. So a few minutes later, she rings the bell. We get off the bus, and we cross the street. And she goes up to this large house with a big wrought iron gate, black wrought iron gate. And when she opens it, there's a lady sitting there at a table in the driveway, and she says hi. And I said, oh my God, you speak English, a white lady. She said, yes, I'm Linda from Oregon. And I said, well, I came to see John of God. I don't know where I am. Do you know anything about that? She said, yes, that's why I'm here. I've been here several times. Do you have a place to stay? I said, no, I don't have a place to stay. She said, well, there's space here. I'll go get the lady of the house. Can I tell you, John of God was literally less than a 10-minute walk away from that house. I could not make it up. I had 10 days of experiences, just shocking experiences like this that made me question the reality that we live in. I'm like, somebody lied about something. I know about coincidences. We have all experienced that. But for 10 days straight, incident after incident, like what I just described to you, you cannot make that up. I came into Brazil a day late. That was not my plan. And yet this lady got on a bus. She didn't even work with John of God. She actually worked in the hospital, and the lady in the house was her sister-in-law. And so she explained to me later that she said, oh, she doesn't work with John of God, she works in the hospital. That's why she was wearing all white. But she looked like my Auntie Annie, like my youngest aunt on my mom's side. And so um, we walk with a guidance as the mothers and fathers of humanity, a very high level of guidance. And this 10-day trip that I opened up my book with coincidence, what I would call coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, um, to the point where it was so much. I'm like, no, there's not this much coincidence in the world. something else is going on. Somebody lied about something. What is this? Because I'm looking outside and everything looks the same, but the experiences I'm having is telling me that I'm being guided from another realm, and this is all planned. And I'm like walking it out. I wasn't trying to do anything, but people would show up at the right times. But I couldn't force anything. I couldn't make anything. You know, we talk about manifesting. I couldn't make anything happen. I couldn't make anything happen. And I didn't know what this was, but I knew that I walked with such a high level of protection. And that's why I keep coming talking to you all about protection. I walked with such a high level of protection. I didn't understand it. You have to read the book. Oh my God. When you read the book and you begin to hear these stories, I know it's going to awaken something deep within you, a hunger for home, for who you are, for your identity. Because I didn't go looking for this. I was part of a spiritual group. I was actually metaphysical. So coincidences were not something new. Of course, they always, like these divine moments, they always brighten our days and everything. But this was so much that I'm like, no, this is not. We say, oh yeah, God did that or God did. Yes, God is always in it, but this was far more specific, and it was happening too much, and the guidance only shut down when I was fearful. When I went into a state of fear, everything shut down. All the messages, all the insights, all of them shut down. When I was too tired to maintain, um, literally too tired to even think, then all the doors opened back up, and it was like I was just in this magical world. And so coming back here, my biggest challenge was like, oh my God, here I know, you know how to move, you know how to navigate, you know everything. But it was like my mind, I realized that I had to put my mind aside, or my mind was put aside for me, because it got in the way of my navigation. Things that I would normally doubt or be like, nah, I don't want to do that out of fear, whether I called it fear or whatever I called it, it would have closed those doors. So I saw that all around us are answers. Um, there's a level of communication at which we operate, but we don't experience, because we have fear at so many levels, even levels that we're literally unaware of, and it's blocking the very things that we are praying for. And yet our children are having experiences, and what are we going to tell them? It's time for us to revert. We've converted to different people's religions and things like that, but it's time for us to revert to our pristine selves, to go back to our roots, to who God, Mother, and Father created us to be, to go back to our wholeness, go back to our sanity. Because, like I said, when I looked outside, the world looked the same, but the experience was something so transformative. It was, you literally, you have to read the story. And I know as you read the story, you'll begin to have your own awarenesses and experiences as well, because the dots will begin to connect themselves. um, Yesterday, I had there was a young man that I was supposed to talk to, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him. My phone didn't have a lot of charge, but he was telling me, he's like, I can't wait to hear about your experiences, because I was telling him, being out in nature, I'm back at the place where I grew up, and where I used to, where I used to be all the time when I was a young girl. But being out here, the ancestresses began to talk to me and show me things, and show me they would show me things about the landscape, and look at that, and look at this, and they were showing me, this is our people's land. This was stolen, this was taken. Things are not as they appear. And when I went to like research a little bit further, what I was receiving was confirmed. And so he wanted to hear more about that, and he talked about it in terms of like psychic communication. So I told him, I said, you listen, I didn't go looking for, I said, this was real time communication from the ancestors. I didn't say I wouldn't call it psychic. I didn't tell him that, but what I did tell him, I said, I didn't go looking for the ancestors. I didn't go looking for them. I didn't go looking for the spirit forces in creation. They came to me in real time. I did not go looking for them. I was already spiritual. I was already metaphysical because I was always searching for truth. And I knew there was more than what I was taught in church. I knew there was more. I knew that didn't make sense. It was too much that was missing. It was incomplete. And I knew that from a child, even though I didn't understand it. I didn't understand that information was taken about life, about our history. And so as I shared that with him, then he then told me, he said, you know what? He said, I've had so many experiences. He said, I want to like try and experience more of the, what do you call, the astral plane, right? And he said, but the ancestors and the goddesses and gods, they show up for me in my living room, and I'm communicating with them in my mind, and they're letting me know like really amazing things. He said, but like I'd be thinking that's my imagination. If we don't have a frame of reference for who we are, we don't even recognize the communication, the level of communication that is coming through. You don't understand who you are, don't understand who your parents are. I'm talking about our parents from a long time ago. We have a legacy. We have been left a rich legacy. We are the rightful owners of the and caretakers of planet Earth. Our thrones have been usurped, but the knowledge is rising up through our sons, our daughters, our mothers, and our fathers. Mother, Father, God will not be denied. They will not be denied. You'll get a copy of my book, Soul Mark for Life. It is a fascinating journey of being taken from where I was back to my roots. But it's not just my story; it's our collective story as a people as well. And when you begin to read, you will see for yourself. You can get it by cash apping $ Destiny Embraced. I'll put it here, and Soul Mark for Life. It's available on Amazon as well. But you know what? You're supporting a black business when you purchase it from me directly. That way Amazon doesn't get all of the money. How about that? But we get to change lives, our lives, and impact other lives in the process because we're creating communities that care. We're creating communities that care because our people have a specific function in this world, and it's not just a general function. We each have a different and a unique function in this world, and when we get back to understanding what that function is and what we're supposed to do and how and when we're supposed to do it, then we organically bring harmony back into our lives and back into the world. Ashe.